Welcome back to Old School Sports. And one of the questions I get asked from time to time is how do you set up your minor league system? And I don't generally go into the excruciating detail with which I set up the system in most of my playthrough videos, but have gotten requests to kind of go into a little more depth. So I'm in the process of preparing for the beginning of the 2039 season with the Pirates. So we've got the Pittsburgh active roster down to 26 players and have been going through minor league team by team and kind of figuring out what those rosters should look like. Typically, I kind of do it from the top down and from the bottom up. When I'm coming out of spring training, and even at the end of spring training, I usually have probably 35 to 40 players who are still in camp that I need to get down to 26 for the 26-man roster. So unless someone is like a really young prospect that I know I want to have in high A ball, I'll send them all to AAA. And then basically I'll have a bunch of guys in AAA decide what that roster is going to look like, send the ones who I don't want down to AA, etc., and kind of move the best prospects and the best players in the system kind of down through the teams. And then also at the same time, I'm taking a look at my Dominican League rosters, and in the case of the Pirates, my Florida League rosters, and taking any players who are ready for something more than rookie ball and putting them onto my low A team. And so you can see right now through that process, we've kind of filled Indianapolis in AAA, Altoona in AA, and Greensboro in A+. Now, on both of these teams, I would really like to have a few more players. So I've also made offers to a number of free agents, and we'll continue to probably sign a few free agents for the minors to kind of round out some of those teams. Generally like 28 to 30 players on the minor league rosters, so when there's injuries and people banged up, I don't really need to be micromanaging them. Really the only kind of thing I micromanage is the promotions from one level to another. And then also I will frequently, I don't want to say frequently, but at least once a month during the season, just go and take a look at how my highest potential players are doing on each team. And those are also generally the players that I may be forced starting at a specific position to either ensure that they get playing time or to help kind of train them up so they're a little more versatile as far as positions when it comes to the major leagues. So basically sending people down through the system, and that's why I've got 40 people on Bradenton in single A right now, and sending people up from rookie ball to single A ball. So Bradenton is kind of the last team that I need to go through player by player. Obviously not going to go with a 40-player roster. Since I can use potentially a few more bodies in Greensboro, I may be sending some players up to Greensboro, even if they're not completely ready. Honestly, with most of your minor league teams, at least in the case of me, 80 to 90% of the players on those teams are basically just filler to give the actual prospects some people to play with. So, if there's a guy who's as ready for high A ball as single A ball, and he's not really a big-time prospect, and I need a body in high A, I'll throw him over there. Vice versa, if I need a body in low A, I'll throw him there. I'm not going to get too picky about what I do. The other thing that I do when setting up my minor leagues at the beginning of the system is I do a run through the international complex, and you can see that we're down to 31 players in the complex right now. That should give us plenty of opportunity to sign prospects this season. Generally, once someone is 19 years old, I'll send them to the rookie league teams, most times from the international complex. It's someone going to one of the Dominican teams, but not always the case. And then if there is a high potential international complex player or someone whose overall rating gets to more than half a star, I'll consider moving those players up too. Generally, if you've got somebody with 30s kind of across the board and all of their ratings, they're probably more than ready for rookie ball. This kind of shows me that Jordan Gonzalez, starting pitcher, his stuff, he's not really a big-time prospect, but he is almost 19 years old. He's got a good personality, so you wouldn't mind having him around with some of the other teams. So I may actually promote him at this point. Again, not that he's really a big-time prospect, but he is going to be 19 years old pretty soon. He's got a good personality and a good influence on some of the players on those other teams. So we'll move him up. Omar Guzman, never going to be a big prospect, but he is also actually almost 19 years old. We'll actually send him up just to kind of have 30 people on both of those teams. But you can see that the high potential players I want to be a little more thoughtful about. Robbie Lucis, who was a scouting discovery last year, he could probably hold his own in rookie ball, but given that he's still only 17 years old, going to let him stay in the international complex a little bit longer. Similarly, Omar Gines, who was our international free agent signing last year, he's looking closer to ready with 30 gap power, 30 home run power, pretty good personality. But he's going to be 17 for this entire season. So even though he'll only be 18 next year, we'll probably move him to one of the rookie level teams when he's kind of the normal age of being a high school graduate. But don't feel like there's anyone that I really need to force off of the international complex at this point. So what I'm going to go through with Bradenton is kind of what I go through with every team as I kind of try to right-size the minor leagues. Generally like to have, as I said, about 30 players on a team, so 5 to 6 outfielders. You can see we're a little heavy there. Like to have maybe 6, 7, 8 infielders. We've got a ton of infielders on this team. 2 to 3 catchers, 3 in a perfect world, and then 13 to 15 pitchers. You can see the issue here is that we don't really have a lot of A-quality pitchers here. A lot of these guys are really not people who should be pitching an A-ball. But it kind of is what it is at this point. We could use more help in pitching across our organization. We're going to try to do that in the draft. As I mentioned, we're trying to do it also with a number of offers that we've made to some free agent minor league pitchers, as you can see. So some of those players, hopefully, if we get signed over the next week or so, we'll be sprinkling through these organizations, through these teams across the organization, and maybe cutting or demoting some of the players who aren't quite ready for the level that they're at. So I'll go into, the excruciating detail here. So you can see we've got 7 outfielders on the team right now. Probably want 5 to 6 in a perfect world to ensure everyone's getting some playing time. The only one, at least in terms of potential, again, looking at the star ratings, which are rough, is that might potentially be a player who could help us at the major league level is Jesus Pizarro. You see, he looks like he could be a major league-ish type of bat, durable, can play an acceptable left or right for you. So he's a guy who we want to make sure we get some playing time for. We've got it set up as a default so that our minor league managers will default to playing players who have the most potential. So you can see he's got more potential than anybody else. So not really worried about him getting playing time. But because we want to have him balanced at both left field and right field over time, we are going to go ahead right now and just set his game strategy to force start him in left field for the course of this season, which I thought I did. Did I mess that up? I guess I didn't click on it properly. All right, there we go. Ooh, maybe I clicked that by mistake. All right, so he's set to be our starting left fielder. We've got 3 right fielders here. Angelo Cano, decent personality, spark plug personality, good work ethic. Fine having him on the team. Jorge Castro, don't love the greediness, but if there's not someone with a worse personality who's not as good a prospect, we'll keep him on the team. Juan Medina, again, looks like best case scenario. He's an average-ish major league player. So no real red flags with those guys. Eric Diaz, the center fielder, another player with a good personality. He's a guy that we signed as a minor league free agent a couple months ago, simply because of the good work ethic, the good loyalty. He's just a body, but like to have people with good personality traits throughout. Omar Carpio, another guy with a good personality generally, although we do see we have several people who aren't particularly adaptable. In the case of any random player, not the end of the world if you can't convert them into a bunch of other different positions, but if that kind of starts influencing other people in your system, probably not optimal. And then David Castro, it's kind of the worst personality of the crew. You can see he's got that low work ethic in addition to low adaptability. He is smart, but doesn't profile as a player who's really much of a prospect. He's fragile physically. He's already 23 years old. You can see we just promoted him from rookie ball in preparation for this year. But we are actually going to go ahead and just release him, get the team down to 6 outfielders. He kind of had the worst personality of the crew. So there we are set with our outfielders. And moving on to the infield, we got a lot of potential cuts to think about here. You can see we've got 3 shortstops, 3 third basemen, 3 second basemen, and 4 first basemen on this team at this point. So we've got 13 infielders. Even if we were to take that down to 9, still means we've got to cut 4 people. And generally when I'm dealing with a single A team, if I cut somebody and just don't like the personality, I'm not going to send them back down to one of the rookie level teams. You can see we've got 30 people on both of our rookie level Dominican squads, and we're a little light right now on our Florida Coast League squads with 23 and 21 people, but we're going to get 20 more players for those teams in the draft right when their seasons are starting. So generally if a player gets cut from A-ball, they're either getting released outright, or and this could happen in this case, if it's a player with a little bit of potential or a player with a good personality, I may move them up to the high A team just to give them some more bodies, especially because we only have 27 bodies there right now. If it's a player who doesn't have a ton of potential and not a good personality, though, just going to cut them outright from the A-ball team, not going to send them back to spend more time in rookie ball. So looking at the shortstops, Serrano, at least in terms of the star ratings, might be the guy with the most potential. But Wilson Gonzalez is a 21-year-old just promoted from rookie ball. Has a little potential. Never going to be a major league hitter, though, and honestly isn't a big-time defensive player, although he's versatile. Not the best personality, with a greedy, unadaptable, unintelligent personality. He could definitely be on the list of people to just kind of have his baseball career, at least with the Pirates, end today. Jerry Serrano, as I mentioned, has got the highest potential. Hit .297 in rookie ball last year. Was a 6th-round pick for us a season ago. Pretty fast, pretty versatile defensively. Definitely going to keep him on the team and kind of force start him in some kind of position to ensure he gets playing time. And then Juan Suarez, not the best personality in the world. Another guy that 22 years old, moved him up from rookie ball, hit .280 there last year. But given the personalities, both Suarez and Gonzalez are definitely in jeopardy. Looking at the third baseman, Dave Ortega is probably the best prospect on this entire team. Scouting discovery from 5 years ago. Looks like he could be a player with a little bit of pop who could definitely have an acceptable-ish bat at third base. The other third baseman, Hubert Bird, good personality, so we'll keep him around even though he's not a big-time prospect. And then Bob Mello, not the best personality, but at least he doesn't have a problem with his work ethic. Getting into the second baseman, Mike DeJesus, 24 years old. If it wasn't for the good personality, he's gone. Rogelio Salazar, also 24 years old. Good personality, though. And then Zhao Jun Zema. Player with a little bit of potential, pretty versatile defensively. Not a horrible personality. Would prefer better leadership, but decent. And then the first baseman, Hosea Buchanan. He's fine. He probably will hit pretty well here in A-ball. Don't think he's really a big-time prospect. John Fifield, greedy player, 25 years old. Not that exciting a prospect. Not good defensively. He's an easy one to cut. Ricky Lira, decent personality, not really much of a prospect. And then Alfredo Maribel, again, decent personality. So Fifield is the easiest cut of anyone here. I'm going to go back to the shortstops now. We don't need 3 shortstops on this team. Wilson Gonzalez, 21-year-old. Not the best personality in the world. Definitely not going to be a major league hitter. He is only 21 years old now. John Suarez, in contrast, also doesn't have a good personality, not going to be a major league hitter, and he's got that low work ethic, so the chances of him actually making it are pretty slim. So we are going to go ahead and cut Mr. Suarez right now. Still have too many infielders on this team. And when we look at Greensboro, we've got 9 infielders on Greensboro right now, too, so we don't really have a huge need to be promoting anybody up there. So it may really just be cutting out some of the players who aren't big-time prospects. I mentioned DeJesus and Salazar are really just there because of their personalities. DeJesus is a captain, Rogelio Salazar a spark plug. Neither of these guys are real prospects, but because they're both respectable players, we're going to move Salazar up to the high A team. He's not going to get much playing time at all there. He's a player who's 24 years old, who's just getting out of rookie ball. The only reason we've kept him in our system all these years is because of his good personality. So he's probably going to play in about 15 games, probably get about 40 at-bats in Greensboro, especially with the fact that we've now got 10 infielders there. But keep that good personality around to hopefully rub off on some of the other young players who maybe do have more potential to help at the major league level down the line. So we've still got 10 infielders here, which is definitely a higher number than I want in a perfect world. We've got one more cut to make. We are going to force start Jerry Serrano at shortstop for the time being. Just want to ensure that he's getting playing time. So Serrano will be our shortstop. Ortega, definitely want to play him. We probably will. You can see he's almost fully trained up in terms of his ability to play third base. We're going to force start him at third base for the time being to ensure that he's out there every day. And then in a month from now or so, we'll check in, see how he's doing. If he's up to 50-50 out of third base, may start force starting him at first base. Or in his case, we can also force start him in left field or right field. Honestly, by the time he's major league ready, maybe 3 or 4 years from now, hopefully in a best case scenario, he's a utility guy at the major league level for the Pirates. Again, he does have a bat with a little bit of a pop. He's a left-handed hitter, which we need at the major league level right now, not that he's ready. So, he could be a 4th or 5th outfielder, pinch hitter who can also play first and third for us. So definitely want to make sure that he is getting action. If I remember correctly, Bird and Mello had decent personalities. So actually Mello may be one to move on from with that low loyalty. He's already 23 years old. Not really a major league prospect. Melo may be the one to cut. De Jesus is not a prospect, but a great personality. Zema, however you want to pronounce it. A better prospect than a lot of people here on this high A team. We'll keep him around. And then looking at the first baseman, Josiah Buchanan looks like he can hit a little. Ricky Lira, nothing exceptional, but at least not a negative personality. And then Maribel, decent personality. So that means that Bob Mello is the other cut. I don't know how much the low loyalty is really going to rub off on other people, but he's not much of a prospect anyways, so we are just going to go ahead and release Mr. Mello from the team. And then 3 catchers, which is a number I'm kind of okay with on the team. I did send up Daniel Guzman from rookie ball. You can see he's a guy who really hasn't played much in rookie ball the last couple years. 18th round draft pick. Can't hit. He's an acceptable defensive catcher. Low loyalty. He's really not ready for this level. But he's going to be behind Jose Solis, who... is a guy who we picked up in a trade with the Angels about a year and a half ago at this point. He's organizational filler, but nice to have a 60 ability catcher to hopefully help mentor some of the pitchers at this level. And then Dae-Il Kim is a guy who we had up last year. Don't love the low work ethic on him, and he's also not that good. Actually, even though it says Guzman is not ready, at least he doesn't have that low work ethic. In a perfect world, if I had enough catchers, I'd have 3 people on the team, but I don't need a 26-year-old catcher with poor work ethic to be playing on the A-ball team with me this year. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to release Dae-Il Kim. And one thing that we will do, I mentioned that we've already made some offers, mostly to starting and relief pitchers to hopefully bolster some of these rosters. Also going to go back through and see if there's some catchers that we can perhaps make an offer to kind of round out our minor league system a bit. Juan Welty, 30-year-old, not that good defensively. Good personality, though, and he's not horrible with his catcher ability. He's a guy that, we could certainly put on a A or an A-plus team to help us out a little bit. Another good-looking personality, 36-year-old Brian Altuve. He's not going to be happy that we envision him as depth, likely in single A, high A, or maybe double A. And his catcher ability is not great, but he is still a player who could be a good influence on some of the minor leaguers around him, so we'll bring him on board. And then defensive-wise, Soren Orbi. Don't love the low leadership, but do love the fact that he's decent defensively. Could look to potentially bring him on board. There's not a ton of catchers out here at this point. You may have seen that we did make an offer of a minor league contract a while back to Drew Romo, which he didn't accept, not surprisingly. Enudis Mordan, just so bad defensively that I don't really want him catching for us anywhere. So there's not a ton here. Edgar Zavala, not great defensively. Kind of slim pickings, quite honestly, for the players who are available. Jefferson Caro, he would kind of fit the bill if it weren't for the poor work ethic. I'm really focused on the personalities that we have in the farm system. If he had a 70 catcher ability or something, if he had a 70 catcher ability, he'd probably be on a major league roster or somebody would have signed him at this point. But given the low work ethic, just to be able to say that I've got three catchers in A ball rather than two catchers doesn't excite me that much. So, made an offer to the couple of catchers, Altuve and Welty. We'll see whether we sign them over the next few days. If we do, we could certainly be shifting, the catchers that we have. You can see we've got three in high A ball right now, only two in double A. And then we've got two up in AAA. And you'll notice that our catchers in the minor leagues, Angel Cotton is really the only one that's a prospect. Up in AAA, we've got Carter Binns, great personality, veteran catcher. Hopefully helps our pitchers develop a bit. And then Cotton, who is not a big-time prospect, but really kind of the only young catcher that we have in our system with a little bit of ability. But you can see in Double A right now, we've got two veterans in their mid to late 30s. Even at high A ball right now, we've got two guys in their early 30s and then a 25-year-old. And then a little more of a prospect, I guess, with Solis. With his catcher ability, he could potentially maybe be a backup at the major league level if you had a bunch of injuries. So he's a guy, especially given that he's 24 years old and he has played in high A ball before. As I look through this, we may actually move him up. We are going to move him up to A ball or high A ball this year, and then we'll move one of these veteran guys, either Alex Lay, who's got a decent personality except for the poor leadership, and Luis Ojeda, who's got just a really good personality. You can see we signed him less than 2 weeks ago. Just organizational depth, like I was talking about with those other guys. Good personality, good defensive catcher. And we're actually going to move Ojeda down to be the starter in Bradenton, most likely. I don't think Solis is a big-time prospect, but want to at least give him a shot in high A ball this year. And then theoretically, with the fact that we've got guys in their mid to late 30s ahead of him in double A, if Solis handles A ball decently over the next month or so, could conceivably move him up to double A to see what he does there. But we don't have a ton of organizational depth at catcher right now. We're a little over a year into this playthrough. Probably will be looking for some help at the catcher position in the draft. You can see actually down here in the DSL team, we do have three guys in there early 20s, late teens, who at least have some potential at one of the teams. This team also has a couple guys that we think have a little more potential. None of them are ready to go to A-ball yet, but hopefully we do have some younger catchers we can start moving up through the system because, when you've got a 37 and 34-year-old as your catchers in double A, it's pretty clear that you don't have a lot of good young answers in terms of prospects at that position. And that brings us to our pitchers, which, as you can see by the number of red arrows we're going to have here, we don't have a ton of real A-level quality pitchers here in Bradenton. We've got 17 pitchers on the team, and only Omar Diaz, Rex Tui, and Jesus Vargas are really viewed as being ready for this level. So unless there's a horrible personality with one of those guys, and fortunately Vargas actually has a really nice personality, 21-year-old who was a 6th-round pick a couple years ago, did respectably in rookie ball last year, so we moved him up to compete in A-ball this year. Tui is a guy that we signed about a month plus ago, just a good personality, a veteran player, not a prospect, but hopefully that work ethic wears off on some of these players, and he's at least a competent pitcher at the single A level. And Omar Diaz, he's a guy who we might move on from, although he's theoretically ready for this level, and he was here last year. He didn't excel at this level, and his personality is not great. That lack of work ethic and that lack of drive, not something that we really want rubbing off on other people. So I tend to think when we go through most of these players with the red arrows indicating that they're not really ready for this level, that they're going to have good personalities. I think that's the reason they're still kind of around in my minor league system somewhere. Clearly, if we come across the 27-year-old player in rookie ball that's got a bad personality, pretty easy to cut them and move on. Nelson Acevedo, as you can see, good personality. He's not really ready to pitch at this level, although he did actually put up a 3.62 ERA last year at this level. So okay keeping him around. Melvin Baez, 26-year-old, generally positive personality, except for the lack of adaptability. He's a guy that we signed to try to round out the system a few months ago. Probably keep him around. David Blanco, not really anything personality-wise. Did put up a 3.28 ERA, but he's actually unhappy right now. Unhappy with his role on the team. Also doesn't help us personality-wise, so he is an easy one to potentially move on from. Dennis Corazari, 27-year-old, good personality, not a prospect, but we'll keep him around. Kamar Kitu, thick-headed, low intelligence, not much of a prospect, maybe an easy cut. Jorge Lopez, good personality, given that we don't have enough quality players. We'll keep the ones who have good personalities around for the time being. Obviously, if we're able to sign some more pitchers over the coming weeks, we may be cycling out of some of these guys that we're keeping now. Jesus Orozco, bad personality across the board, probably the end of his career. Tony Ruesca, low leadership. He's borderline. We do need to have some pitchers down here, so that's why, even though I constantly preach that I want to clear the bad personalities out of my system, you'll find some now and then just when we need players on teams. And also, I've only been through this playthrough through a year and a half now, so I haven't scrubbed the minor league system player by player, line by line as diligently as I'm perhaps doing right now. Willie Sanchez, broadly a good personality. He can definitely stay. Rex Tui we talked about. Juan Valenzuela, not the best personality, and especially don't like that low work ethic. His career in the Pirate system could be coming to an end. Ivan Villalon, high leadership. Emmanuel Holguin, high intelligence, low greed. Jordan Valdez, nice personality, spark plug, good work ethic, he can stay. And last but not least, Eddie Weathers. Has the intelligence, not a ton of leadership, but he's a starter. Starter's generally harder to come by. You can see he was respectable at this level last year, so he stays. So we've got 5 guys that I've kind of noted here that could get cut. Probably only going to cut 2 or 3 of them. You can see they are all guys who are viewed as just having half a star of potential. So none of these are big-time prospects. It's really just a matter of figuring out whose personalities are the most difficult. David Blanco is a blah personality, but compared to the others, that's actually not bad at this point. So he's safe. We're going to cut people who may be negative influences. Kamar Kitu, 22 years old. He's dumb, but and he's really not a prospect, but hopefully his lack of intelligence won't rub off on people as bad as a poor work ethic. Jesus Orozco, again, if you have to have 3 things that you're negative in, greed, loyalty may be okay. That low leadership, though, could be a problem. And as I mentioned, he's also very unhappy. Kitu at least has a good attitude at this point. So I would say that Kitu might be safe. Orozco with a difficult personality, and he's also unhappy, so that could be a negative influence on people around him. He's almost certainly gone. Ruesca, don't love the low leadership. He's also unhappy. These guys may be making the decision easy for me. And then Juan Valenzuela, low adaptability, low work ethic, also very unhappy. So the guys with negative personalities who are also unhappy, easy to release those 3 guys. And we have Bradenton down to 31 men. So again, I'm hoping that with some of the offers that I've made to the free agent pitchers and the free agent catchers that we're going to be able to get some of these teams a little higher quality, because you can see the pitching we have in Bradenton right now is not really competitive for that level. Similar situation, quite honestly, in high A ball. And honestly in double A too. When we start getting up to triple A, it's a little more mixed between guys who are actually ready for the majors, guys who are kind of appropriate at triple A, and then several guys that aren't quite ready for that level. So certainly adding some more talent in pitching into our system is something that we want to definitely do, and we're trying to do with the, as I said, the number of players we've made additional offers to in recent days. Hopefully, we'll get some of those onto these rosters. You know, if one of those players is ready for AAA, that may allow us to move one of these guys who's not ready for AA back down there, where they'll be a little bit more effective, which could let us move one of these guys who's not really ready for AA down to high A or single A, where maybe they'll be a little more effective, and kind of becomes a cascade factor, where if we bring in a couple of good pitchers as free agents now at the AAA level, we can drop some people down to levels where they might be more effective and kind of keep laddering people down so that our minor league teams are a little more competitive. Because right now, with the lack of pitching that we have in this organization, those teams are definitely going to struggle. There's no doubt about it. And as we're broadly thinking about our minor league system, you can see that we rank second overall at this point. So we've actually dropped back a notch since we took over the team a year ago. Sixth ranked prospect in baseball, Isaiah Hill, is going to be learning on the job at the major league level this year. He dominated high A ball and double A ball last year, came up in triple A at the end of the year and was not great, but you can see still put up an OPS plus and WRC plus that were a little above average. But we need some speed. We needed a little bit better range in the outfield. Love his durability. And he's also, 23 years old now, and he was the number one overall pick in the draft back in 2034. Even though he's still got some development to do, I think he's ready to be a respectable major league player and hopefully be a real good major league player over time. Our farm system is definitely not high on pitchers. Part of the reason why some of those teams look so awful as far as their pitchers. Luis Longoria is a guy who was the Pirates' first round pick back in 2035. He's fragile right now, and he missed most of last season with injuries. He was respectable at the at that rookie ball level. He is a guy who we very well could be moving up to A ball in short order. Actually, as I'm thinking about it, I can't remember. I think I may have already looked at him and figured out that he wasn't quite ready. Let me just see. Although that 45 stuff, I may have just screwed this up, but let's see. Yeah, see, they're telling me that Longoria is still not ready for A-ball, despite the fact that he looks good down there. And given that he is a real prospect, I don't want to mess around with him too much, but I'm hoping that he can be healthy this season, and hopefully after 3 or 4 starts in rookie ball, we can get him up to A-ball in not too long to see exactly what he can do at that level. But other than that, you see a lot of outfielders, third baseman, and then when we're getting into some more marginal prospects, Sal Valadez, who was our second-round draft pick last year, pitched 6 games, 2-1 record, 2.95 ERA. He's only 18 years old, still definitely needs a little more seasoning in rookie ball. Luis Molina is a guy who we're promoting up to AAA this year. He was pretty good, 13-8 record, 2.62 ERA in AA full season for us last year. good personality. He's almost 24 years old, and he's still got a lot of growth. When I took over this Pirates team, they were not investing a lot in player development. And the coaching staff throughout the minor league was also not all that great. So I feel like he is a player. You look at the amount of time he's been in the system since, drafted him in 2037. He split the year between high A ball and double A ball when, before I took the team over. Last year we had him in double A all year. But he's got a lot of areas where he still needs to grow, so hopefully he can have an effective year this year in AAA. Certainly profiles as someone who could be a useful major league arm if he can completely develop. Throws in the mid-90s, has that good work ethic. So hopeful that he will become a big-time pitcher. But as I talked about, we don't have tons of pitchers in the system. Last one to mention is our third-round pick from last year, Juan Bin Daoud, 3-4 record, 4.27 ERA. So he was not quite as effective as Valadez, the guy that we drafted the round before him. But given that it takes so long for any players, or not any players, but the vast majority of players that you're going to be picking in the draft, it's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 years before they're going to be making an impact on the major league level. So I don't really stress drafting for what my major league needs are right now in the draft, unless there's someone who's ready to go right to the majors, simply because those things can change so dramatically over 3, 4, 5 years. That being said, definitely going to try to have another focus in the draft this July on potentially bringing some more quality arms into our minor league system, because as you saw when you looked at some of these teams with me, we've got a lot of people who really don't have any business pitching at the level that we're asking them to pitch. So would like to kind of correct that over time. It's not something that's going to instantly fix itself, because, when you look at the pitchers that are out there, a lot of the higher quality guys clearly are looking for major league contracts, as makes sense. And then there's also a lot of players who might be helpful and better than the guys that we have, but they're in their, mid-30s and they've got some personality quirks. And I just don't want to kind of have those guys influencing the guys in my minor league system. But it's a trade-off, because if I were to bring somebody like, say, Victor Juarez here onto that A or that high A team, he would be a better pitcher than most people on that team, and he would help any of those teams compete, which is important in terms of player development, also winning games and teaching people how to win. But the low leadership and the low work ethic and the fact that he seldom gives maximum effort makes him someone that I want to keep away from the other young players, or the young players in my system. So the fact that I'm so kind of focused on the personalities of the people I will allow to pitch in my minor league system is going to give me situations like I have with the A-ball team this year, where generally we've got a bunch of good personalities who hopefully can be positive influences on the people like Vargas that are a real prospect, but this team may not on the field be as successful as they could be if I brought in some more negative personalities with a little more ability. So it's definitely a trade-off. I don't want this team to be playing 200 ball. Hopefully they'll be more competitive than that. But there's always trade-offs involved in everything. And certainly managing the minor league system is an area where there's plenty of those to go around. So for those of you who have been wondering, what I do in a little more detail when I'm thinking about the minor league systems, hope this was helpful. Obviously, no guarantees that the way I do it is right, and certainly you can probably make an argument that I'm doing a lot of things wrong. But for those who are interested, hope you found this walkthrough useful. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.